Episode 96. Continuing with the patch 2.4 quests starting now. I should mention, for the sake of posterity, this is the first episode I'm using out new controller, PS5 Edge controller. Well, I'm not sure if that's the full name. I think Sense is in there somewhere. DualSense Edge, that's the name. Complained previously in this another game playlist, I guess, that I was having issues with the control stick after trying a few things without buying anything to fix the left stick sticking, having some twitchy movement. Decided to actually go ahead and get something, and the options were to get some compressed air or other similar quick patch type fixes for a small amount of money, and potentially not even fix anything. Get a new controller for a large amount of money, just a normal controller, which I've actually done in the past due to not being able to fix things by taking things apart and using compressed air and whatnot. Or spend an even larger amount of money on a new controller, DualSense Edge, which has a bunch of other features. It's pretty obscene how much these cost, but I decided to, I guess, get a gift for myself, just based on the time of recording. And the result is this. The controller has a couple of extra paddles as well as options for rebinding, as well as changing the dead zones and other things for the sticks. The main thing that, obviously, I was looking for was fixing the sticks, but for longevity, the sticks are removable and replaceable for modules that you can entirely replace, or even just taking the caps out of their locations on the stick and replacing with other caps, but by removing those caps you also have the option of, I guess, having easier access to clean the inside, even if you don't remove the front cover. Though having said that, the front cover is much more easily removed, and the sticks in their sockets much more accessible than a normal controller. By removing the front cover, I guess you could easily clean out some dirt, even if you had trouble with that on the normal controller. That said, there are also the options of some paddles on the back, something like an L3, or I guess an L4 and an R4. I'm supposed to show that. The controller now includes at the bottom there these two paddles, which, as you can see, are basically no more than ridges sticking out of the back of the controller, kind of hard to reach to. I have on the left side basically what I would call L4, or the left paddle or whatever, on triangle for this specific button assignment for Final Fantasy. Since triangle is the jump button in this game, I find myself specifically in any jumping challenges like in the Gold Saucer or mainly just in the overworld, not liking that I have to reach for the triangle button to jump, so what I normally do in other games is put on L1 the jump button to make it bumper jumper. In this game it would make it a little bit more difficult if I were to just assign it here to be triangle. Because if I did that, then I would lose access to L1, which is used for other things, and I couldn't just put it on triangle to make things easier. There are a lot of memorized button mappings that I really wouldn't want to change, so just having an extra button here for triangle makes jumping easier. As for the other paddle, I was struggling to think what might be useful, the most useful. At first I was wondering if I could use it for the touchpad options. In Final Fantasy, pressing right on the touchpad, as in pressing it down, cycles through these menus. But if you press it left, it cycles the opposite direction. I was hoping that by setting the paddle here to a touchpad, it would just choose one, maybe choose right side or choose left side. But unfortunately it chooses neither, it just does a default no direction press of the touchpad, meaning that this, without pressing anywhere on the touchpad, doesn't do anything in Final Fantasy, doesn't cycle right and doesn't cycle left. In order to use this way, I would have to have one finger on the touchpad, not pressing it in as a button, and then use a different finger on the paddle, a total of 2 fingers just to cycle through. After experimenting around with that, it was maybe somewhat useful, because the touchpad on this DualSense Edge controller is a little bit tougher to press in than the normal controller. You have to press a little bit harder. But after some review, it seems like the best option was just to put the options button under this paddle. Because... oh. Pressing the options button opens up this menu, which is used for quite a number of things, very frequently. And I noticed that, like the touchpad, pressing the options button on this new controller is also a little bit harder. You have to press harder to do this than on the normal controller. So moving that to the paddle seemed like the right choice. My batting average for pressing the new buttons instead of the old buttons is pretty low right now, but hopefully I'll get used to it. One of the other things that changed for this mapping is on here. There was also the option to replace this paddle, which is basically just a ridge on the back, with something that goes more alongside the left branch of the controller, where the grip is. Decided to put the jump button triangle, use the paddle, the longer paddle for that. My finger is currently resting on top of it, so it might actually be something that I accidentally jump on, because the default position of holding the controller puts your ring finger above the jump button, the jump paddle, which might be a problem if I'm casting, especially on Black Mage, and accidentally grip the controller a little bit too hard and end up cancelling one of my casts. If that ends up being the problem, I'll probably switch back to using what's pictured here, the out-of-the-way paddle, so that I don't accidentally jump. But we'll see how this works out, I guess. Other options are something that I'll maybe play around with. I of course have the option of switching back to the default profile, or using this one which uses paddles. The profile can be customized for changing the dead zones on the sticks, as well as remapping and other things. But those dead zones are something that might be important if later down the line I find myself unable to fix any hardware issues like I did before. Of course, I could have just invested in something like a soldering iron for home, so I could manually fix the controllers that I do have, not just the PS5 controllers, but any controllers that I get for Xbox or whatever. Open them up and change them up, but it felt like if I was going to do all of that, then the amount of time that I would invest in doing all that soldering might be better spent just spending a little bit of extra money. I was looking at some tutorials, and the amount of soldering you'd have to do just to change out the sticks would take maybe several hours if you got good at it, maybe less than an hour, but you'd also need to spend some money on soldering wick, as well as, well, soldering iron if you wanted to re-solder the controllers. But those don't really cost too much money. It was really just the time sink that I was interested in not spending too much on. Well, we'll see how well this works out. I spent way too long talking about this, but since this is a personal history sort of recording, I wanted to at least get the first episode where I'm using this new controller for perhaps several years, and also probably on PC as well, since this can connect to that. Get the first episode noting down when I'm starting to use this. That's enough of that. Infilia's been waiting on us. Traitor in the Mist. Wonder what that could be. Try as I might, I cannot shake a creeping sense of dark foreboding. But it avails us not to fret about the unknown. We must concentrate instead on the problems of the present. The primals have been relatively quiet of late, and the beast tribes who summon them are under constant surveillance by the grand companies. Should any suspicious activity be afoot, you may be certain that we will hear of it. And until such time as a permanent solution to the primal problem has been found, we can do little but wait and observe. Yeah, good luck with that. As for the Asians, Urianger is wholly dedicated to finding the means by which we may defeat the Dark Beings. Let us pray for good tidings on that front. But all of this you knew already. Let us speak then of more current matters. In particular, the state of the Crystal Braves. Alphino did well to found the organization, but ensuring its smooth operation is another matter entirely. Though I doubt not that he is doing his best, I felt that a helping hand or two would not go astray. To this end, I offered to send one of the Archons to assist him, but he declined. You know how he can be, independent to a fault, and singularly loath to accept help. Save, of course, when that help comes from you. Alphino has entrusted countless matters of import to your care in the past, and I believe he would not hesitate to do so again, were you to offer. I should be most grateful if you would go to him and support him in whatever manner you are able. Sounds like a good idea, Minfilia. Komor is actually in the midst of putting together her own gang. I've been keeping up with this Adventurer Squadron stuff in the background, and I'm not sure it's quite on the level of taking on Alphino's Crystal Braves. But this will be a chance for Komor to spy on Alphino's ranks, get the lay of the land with the Crystal Braves, and learn their weaknesses from within. For the eventual gang wars that are definitely happening. Alphino refused the Archon's help, but I believe he would welcome yours. I should be most grateful if you would place yourself at his disposal. Komor helped found the Crystal Braves, but I guess she wasn't really invited to join them, hence why she had to create her own gang. Oh, did people move around actually? They did, just now. Well, let's check in on them. Ooh, from invoices to petitions, it's a war, Komor. That desk is my front line, and I fear I've been overrun. Many of my countrymen are still skilled with the bow or blade. I have made it my mission to rally those with such talents to the Braves' cause. I only hope we can be of some small assistance. Condemn refugees to death? Wait a minute, that's not right. In which event, we must guide them to Little Alamigo, else we condemn them to certain death. Ida, what did I just tell you? Looks like they'll be repeating that for a while. Hilbert. Dispatch the first unit to Ulda. The second and fourth are to stand by for further orders. In traditional Doman cuisine, we strive for perfect balance, not only of flavor and texture, but also of nutrition. For a meal to be truly satisfying, it must nourish the body as well as delight the senses. I should have ate before recording. I actually kind of want to eat now. Maybe I'll order some food in between episodes. Yes, 'twould be foolish to sacrifice nutrition for flavor. If Higiri and our more skilled culinarians worked closely together, I dare say they could create extraordinary dishes, sure to satisfy Eorzean and Doman alike. More Crystal Braves hanging around. Though it seems like most of them, after that last conversation with Minfilia, have dispatched. less hanging around the rising stones here. You're sticking out of my secret area, aren't you, Hozan? Where have those younglings disappeared to? Making the most of their newfound freedom, no doubt. Not back here, I am hoping. Good. Our two favorite scions? Well, side scions? B-lister scions? Or are these guys C-listers? I'd call them B-listers, along with Ryle and others. Arnvald is still around, right? Yeah, he's around somewhere. Did he leave after everything with the Waking Sands, or... No, he's still around. I'm sure I've seen him here in the Rising Stones. Those Azure uniforms are really rather striking, but I think I shall remain a scion for the nonce. These walls have become my home, and the scions my family. Besides, I'm not sure blue is really my color. The green in my cassock brings out my eyes, just as Hori's breeches bring out the red in his. His eyes are green, I think. Breeches. Can't really tell his eye color, though. Or was he talking about his hair? Look forward, never back. Devote yourself only to the present. This is what I learned from the Domans. He has been training them up, hasn't he? And Thancred. A dazzling floral arrangement, each blossom a peerless beauty in her own right. Ah, the blessing and the burden of an overactive imagination. What could you be talking about, Thancred? I like Y'shtola best. Although, Philomene... No, that's someone's mom. That's our boss's mom. We shouldn't be thinking such things. Not while she's our boss. Alfie note? What is it, Komoy? And do be concise, I am rather busy. You would lend a hand, you say? I see. Well, now that you mention it, there is a matter that wants for attention. Given its sensitive nature, I was hesitant to entrust it to my braves. But the demands upon my time are such that I had little choice. Which is not to say that my men want for labor. Though we are but newly formed, there is already a great demand for our services, and we are hard-pressed to answer all petitions. But I digress. The fact is, I would sooner attend to this particular matter myself, but my presence is required elsewhere. That being the case, I have entrusted its resolution to my second-in-command, Captain Ilberd. Tell him that I sent you, and he will furnish you with the particulars. My thanks in advance, Komoy. I have given Captain Ilberd charge of the matter. Tell him that I sent you, and he will furnish you with the particulars. My thanks in advance, Komoy. Sometimes they have something else to say, sometimes not. I forget what Ilberd sounds like. I know he's voiced sometimes, but I don't think he was voiced yet. Maybe he's voiced here.
Hail to you, scion. How might we serve you? Commander Leveilleur bade you serve us? These are welcome tidings indeed. Given the sensitive nature of the task, I could not rely on one of my own. That which I'm about to tell you, I tell you in the strictest confidence. Some days ago, we received certain documents from an anonymous source. They notified us of the presence of a Garlean agent within the ranks of one of the Grand Companies. Following some discreet inquiries, we identified a suspect among the Immortal Flames, whom we detained for questioning. Alas, the man was not our agent. He was but one of many men in the agent's employ. We pressed the traitor for a name, but he had none to give. He claims never to have met his master, whom he knows only as the Ivy.
Oh, that would be the first instance of an accidental press of the paddle that I mentioned. This time it wasn't for jumping, but I guess trying a button opens up a menu here. Maybe I'll have to rethink using this longer paddle. We'll see how often it happens.
He was, however, certain that this ivy had coiled itself around every part of the immortal flames. It would seem our quarry joined the company some time ago, and gradually recruited others to his cause. These conspirators are the vines by which he learns our secrets, all without exposing himself. It won't be easy to identify the ivy amidst this tangled mass of subterfuge, but we have a tendril in our hands, and we shall follow it all the way to the gnarled root. Now, much as I would prefer to proceed with due discretion, circumstances demand that this matter be settled post-haste. Garlemald's War of Succession nears its end, and it is feared that the Empire will soon resume its march on Eorzea. When it does, we can ill afford to have traitors in our midst. The ivy must be rooted out now. We must begin by apprising General Reborn of our findings. I would ask that you accompany me to the Hall of Flames and remain on hand to see that things go smoothly. Assuming the ivy's tendrils are as widespread as we believe, he will be aware that an investigation is underway, and if that is the case, he may well move against us. We must be prepared for anything, while taking care not to betray our purposes by seeming prepared. A simple enough task for a one-woman army like you.
That talk of a traitor in the mist maybe gave Komori a scare. Maybe they're onto her, that she's actually spying on the Crystal Braves. Not really. We must begin by apprising General Reborn of our findings. Pray meet me at the Hall of Flames, and remain on hand to see that things go smoothly. Same stuff. It'll happen, sometimes. They'll have something funny to say or more lore. More frequent in more recent expansions and things. When they do that kind of thing. I do like jumping with this paddle, but I find myself constantly afraid of pressing it at the wrong time, especially during a cutscene. Just with my hand resting on the controller, it's not too bad, but I guess if I'm moving around like taking a drink during a cutscene, I'm afraid I'll squeeze the controller too hard with one hand. Well, we'll see if I get used to it.
Well, well. What brings you here, my friend?
She is here at my behest. Greetings, Reborn. It has been a while.
Hilbert, you old scoundrel. When they told me you'd be visiting, I scarce believed my ears. But look at you! The honored captain of the Crystal Bloody Braves. Who'd have imagined, eh?
Not many, but fewer still would have imagined your destiny lay in politics, old friend.
Aye. We've both come far, have we not? Lest you wonder, Hilbert and I go back a long way. We've been friends and rivals since we were lads. The last time we saw each other, Alamigo had just fallen, so you can guess how many summers it's been. And in all that time, not a word from the fool.
Ah, well, my dealings tended toward the modest and mundane, unlike some I could mention. As I hear it, no sooner did you reach Thanalan than the brass blades clapped you in irons and dragged you off to die on the blood sands. Being a stubborn sort, you won 1,000 matches and earned yourself a place in the people's hearts while you were about it. Then, with your mountain of prize money, you bought the Colosseum and secured a seat on the Syndicate. Those balls, brother! Rags to riches does not do it justice. You're a hero to the common man.
Pah! Spare me. I am no hero. If anyone is worthy of that title, it's our friend here. Next to her, I'm little more than a glorified butcher. But you, Wilbert, you sell yourself short. By all accounts, you are an adventurer of some standing.
I like to think that I did my part for the greater good. But if you're no hero, then I'm no adventurer, not in this company. Anyway. I have tidings.
So there has been progress. I've let it be known that this meeting is a reunion between old friends. None will give your visit a second thought. To convene elsewhere would only attract attention. Let us speak here, in plain view of all. So it is we who have been compromised. Teleji Adeleji's machinations have shaken Ul'dah to her foundations. In such uncertain times, a man's loyalty may be bought for a fistful of gil. But if this snake has truly been in our midst for as long as you say, we must needs consider a far graver possibility. Conspiracy. Could it be that the Monitarists have been in league with the Empire from the first? Very well. I will have my most trusted men investigate the matter. Continue your inquiries in the meantime. It does me well to see you again, old friend. When next we meet, let it be over a flagon of ale.
I look forward to it. Let us reminisce of bygone days, and drink to the future of our homeland. Flame General. You wear the mantle well, old friend. I must work hard if I'm to keep up. Well, it would seem your services were not required after all. I dare say we have Roban's prudence to thank for that. Still, I was glad of your presence. My thanks, Scion.
Some backstory on Reborn. To Ilberd. I guess all of that stuff was stuff you could have already known previously, before all of this happened. If you went around asking about Reborn, or I don't know where you would get the lore from about him. I'm sure it was out there somewhere in the game. Like, you wouldn't just know that he's some guy up there next to Nanamo Ul'Namo, a pseudo-leader of all of Ul'Dah. I'm pretty sure all of that stuff about him becoming a gladiator and then rising the ranks, maybe you could learn over in the gladiator section just by talking to people. But I think this is the first time they actually present it to the player, like, in their face, as part of a required quest. It's probably a good idea to do that, since you can't expect players to get all of the backstory from four characters just on their own. You got to give them the story that they need for all of the major players as part of the main quest. I've actually been ignoring these. Maybe I should have been picking them up. Of course, not for the stats. I already spent some tomestones. Tombstones? It's tomestones. Some tomestones on higher level gear, but I was wondering if maybe I wanted to use these for glamours, these even start things. They're the kind of jester looking set, or magician looking set. I think I should have been collecting them after all. Oh well. It's not too late to get the remaining pieces and then buy them from whatever, I think, allied seals you would get them from. I'm sure there are other ways to get them, though. I just don't want them in my inventory, I guess. Our hunt for the Ivy begins in earnest, Scion. Suffice it to say, we must tread warily, but one misstep may well cost us our lives. Our business here is concluded for the time being. Let us return to the Rising Stones and report to Commander Leveler. Same stuff. Someday. Actually, while that cutscene was happening, I had the thought that I suppose it wouldn't be too much of an issue if I were to change the control scheme so that I don't accidentally press the paddle, which is the jump button right now, and interrupt the flow of the conversation. By which I mean change the control scheme by swapping to the default profile in which the paddle does nothing. It happens with as quick as a press with that. I haven't mentioned it before, I guess, but those buttons on the bottom diagram, marked FN, they aren't really used for any of the buttons that you see here, but they're used for certain options relating to, I guess, advanced controls, like... Oops. Ah, it changed, right. Like, turning on and off this overlay without going through all the menus so that you can change the control mappings on the fly, among other things, but the main thing is swapping between profiles as quick as you can. But doing that for every conversation or for every cutscene might be a little bit of a pain to bring up this profile thing. Actually, there's an option for that, isn't there? Somewhere. Well, I guess I'll look at it later. I believe there was some option to turn off this window that pops up in the top right and make it so that it only vibrates your controller or something when you change a profile to let you know that it changed. I suppose I could do that if I'm afraid of accidentally pressing the paddle during cutscenes, so maybe between episodes. I spend a lot of time on things like this, controller mapping and whatnot. It was pretty bad in my Atlas episode 1, and it's pretty bad in this episode too, but I guess that's why I record these videos, to capture my experiences, and my experiences also include the process of mapping controllers. We are returned from Uldar, Commander. And not a moment too soon. Something has happened. Trouble? You will recall that the Force was tasked with reconnoitering the rendezvous site used by the Ivy's minion and his Imperial contacts. Soon after you left, we received word that the unit was ambushed en route to its destination. Gods damn it. According to the report, one of ours has been taken captive. The Guardians are not wont to treat their foemen with dignity, and I have grave fears for her safety. We must dispatch a rescue party at once. Recall those braves who are afield. Begging your pardons, Commander, but we will not have the time. I'm afraid I must ask for your aid once more, Scion. An ill-prepared rescue party will only serve to provide the Guardians with more captives. Your time is of the essence. Simply put, you are the best chance we have. Captain Ilberd has the right of it. I trust you are willing, but of course you are. Now, Allian of the Force lies in wait in the Tangle, near the entrance to Castrum Sentry. Seek her out, and she will apprise you of the situation. There's Allian again. The girl that traveled around with Isildur, I think his name was Isildur, her grandfather or something previously, but is now part of the Crystal Braves on her own, keeping track of that name. I remember some names, like Ilbert and Ryle, Horrible during Coltonet obviously, and I'm now getting used to remembering Hozan, I believe the father of the leader of the Doman Adventurers Guild, also Doware and Higiri, the two that accompanied... Why am I forgetting a main character's name? A super important main character. The ninja lady. The main Doman. The one who... Well, these two accompanied her, and I guess I remember their names better than her now because she's off in Limsolominsa, training up the Rogues Guild or something. Did I talk to Alfina? Surely they have something new to say. Nope, that's the same. Damn. Maybe I should give up for this patch. Right, we can teleport. Nope, it's actually outside. I thought the tangle was in the shroud, that would make sense to me. The nice thing is, having the paddle on jump makes flying pretty easy, and keeping my thumb on the right stick for moving the camera around, because triangle not only jumps but raises your chocobo. There's also the circle button that lowers it, but I find myself pressing triangle more than circle, mainly for rapid ascent, and I don't really need to do a rapid descent with the circle button too often. Hang in there, Resh. We'll free you yet. You would aid us in the rescue mission. We are in your debt, Warrior of Light. Now time is against us, so allow me to brief you on the situation. The Garleans fell upon us without warning, wounding poor Resh and hauling her away to the castrum yonder. Outnumbered as we were, it was all we could do to flee and regroup. Even as we speak, the Garleans may be interrogating Resh, or worse. With her hurts, I fear that she will not long survive their attentions. We must rescue her without delay. Oh great, the fate. Our order may yet be in its infancy, but the bond that binds us is strong as Mithril. None of us will stand by while a comrade suffers. We, the remnants of the Force, will infiltrate Castrum Sentry. Please help us find Resh before it's too late. Well, at least the Fate music isn't playing. Not sure what triggers the Fate music sometimes and not other times. I guess technically if the Fate started, it would trigger the music, and sometimes the Fate starts on its own because of a timer or NPCs doing attacking or other ways. So yeah, I guess Garleans still have a presence over here in this castrum, even though we supposedly rooted them out, or at least crippled their main invasion force. Of course, they can't just remove all of the enemies that people would fight in MMO from the overworld. So I'm sure the lore reason is just that they're sticking around as remnants or whatever. Of course, being able to fly around makes their presence a lot less intimidating. We can just fly directly over their walls, unlike in the main story, where we kind of had to worry about infiltrating them, or attracting their attention or whatnot from the front gate. Especially when we still were lower level. Oh, it looks like she's doing the same mission as me. I was wondering why they spawned twice. Make some room. Where am I? Resh, thank the gods we found you. And thank you, Warrior of Light. Now to quit this accursed place. Resh cannot move with those wounds. She will need to be carried out. I believe a diversion is in order. Might we trouble you to provide one? Given your reputation, I suspect the Garleans will be only too happy to grant you their undivided attention. If you were to create a commotion within the castrum, we should be able to steal away unnoticed. Let us speak again once we are safely outside these walls. It feels like with their main invasion force crippled or whatever, they should be able to rout out the remaining people here. But I guess there are reasons they can't do that. Whatever. Thank you. Let's get out of here. And the same log. Oh, you're moving faster than me. Is that all of them? It's nice and all having someone around to help me with the enemies if we're fighting them at the same time, but it does make it a bit hard to tell which enemies are part of the quest and which ones aren't. There's of course the icon above them, but when there are too many enemies on screen or something, it becomes a bit of a visual overload. Michael with a book. Oh, we got more. One of the things that could be nice to customize on this controller, I mentioned before that the control sticks, the analog sticks, can be swapped out for alternative dome caps. There are these flat ones that are the default PS5 controller, but the dome ones obviously are more curved. I think the dome ones would be easier for more instant movement, while these flat ones are good for precise movement, like only tilting them a little bit. But I think in Final Fantasy the dome caps might be more useful for twitchy movement, since there are a lot of micro adjustments that you might have to do during a trial or something, especially if you need to position yourself between a bunch of AoEs or something, and do it quickly. Seems like the dome ones would be more responsive to your initial push, while the flat ones are slower to respond. Again, good for walking and the like, but just a theory. Maybe I'll play around with that, but right now I'm still using the flat ones. I've awaited your return most anxiously, my friend. You have done us a great service indeed. Thanks to your aid, our comrade Resh is safe, and we suffered no further casualties. Words cannot well express my gratitude. All that is left is to report the mission's success to Commander Leviseur. I shall go on ahead to the Rising Stones. Well, how about it, Komori? Have you learned any of their critical weaknesses through that show of weakness they just had? I'm sure if the gang wars do happen, she'll be able to target the weakest link. Maybe that'll be Resh or something. Or Alion's propensity for kindness to her comrades. Of course, I would never condone such behavior myself. This is all Komori's line of thinking. The people moved again. Not everyone, just Y'shtola. Same dialogue, so I guess Y'shtola is the only one that moved for whatever reason. And I can maybe guess why. She's probably in this cutscene, right? So what I would do before what is presumably going to be a cutscene like this is just do a swap like that. Press the FN button and triangle. which is something that I'll do in subsequent episodes, presumably, if I can remove this overlay in the top right, like I think I can. Just getting used to it in my mind. It does me well to see you thus returned. Though I doubt not your prowess, entering an enemy stronghold is generally considered to be a risky venture, and I must confess to having been a trifle anxious. But here you are, hale and whole, having succeeded in your mission as is your wont. Lest you wonder, the woman you rescued is being cared for by the Domans. Thanks to their expert ministrations, the danger is past. You have my gratitude, Komoi. Allow me to thank you also, Scion. Resh owes you her life. We escaped with minimal casualties this time, but we can ill afford to be caught off guard again. The Empire is not an opponent to be trifled with. As you say, Commander, I will see to it that the men keep their wits about them. And it may yet take time, but I will not rest until we have identified and apprehended the Ivy. I have every confidence that you will succeed, Captain. As for you, Komoi, I realize you have scarce caught your breath, but I'm afraid there is no rest for the weary. I require that you accompany me to court this. I have been granted an audience with an Ishgardian dignitary, you see, and the man expressly requested your presence. Oh, do not look so surprised. You should be familiar with the trappings of fame by now. We shall depart as soon as you are ready. Should I go for these? Nah. I'm sure I'll be swimming in whatever currency I need to purchase them if I ever feel like getting the glamour soon enough. Now who could that be? An influential Ishgardian. We have been blessed with a rare opportunity, Komoi, an audience with an ambassador of the Holy See of Ishgard. We are to treat with Sir Aymeric, Lord Commander of the Temple Knights in Camp Dragonhead. It is considered a great honor to serve the Holy See directly as a Temple Knight. Needless to say, their leader, wields tremendous political influence. We would be wise to court his favor. For that reason, I consider your attendance essential. If Sir Aymeric wishes to meet the woman behind the legend, I would not deny him the pleasure of your company. The antecedent should see the wisdom of this plan when you request her permission to accompany me to Corthus. Mayhap you feel this to be a waste of your talents, which could doubtless be put to nobler use. If so, I should remind you that more good can be accomplished with a stroke of a pen than the thrust of a sword. Wow. Alphanode. There we go. You are such a nerd. Can't believe you just said that, Komoi. If my many adventurers in diplomacy have taught me anything, it's the importance of humoring those who have something one wants. Not every victory is won on a battlefield, my friend. 'Tis the lot of legendary heroes to be paraded about from time to time. If you say so, nerd. I guess each troll is just off doing something, not related to our cutscene. Oh, we need permission from the boss. I hope she doesn't sense that I've been making eyes at her mother. She can't sense that sort of thing, right? Not with the Echo? Probably not. A meeting with an Ishgardian ambassador? By all means, I think it a wonderful idea. We have received no reports of etheric disturbances or unusual beast tribe activity of late. If Alphanode believes your presence may help him to secure more favorable terms, I see no reason to deny him. Antecedent? I take it Komoi has explained the situation. She has, Yet welcome though these overtures are, I cannot help but wonder what prompted them. The Ishgardians have spurned all contact with other city-states for decades. Why reach out now? Would that I knew. The question of their motives is one to which I have given no small amount of thought. Alas, I know no more than is generally known. The notoriously reclusive nation of Ishgard, situated at the center of Abalatia's spine, ruled by the Ishgardian Orthodox Church, at the head of which presides the Archbishop. Members of the original Eorzean Alliance, formed in the wake of Alamigo's fall some 2 decades ago. Friends of convenience, who withdrew from the Alliance as soon as the Imperial fleet was routed at the Battle of Silver Tier Skies. The battle which happened in a cutscene in 1.0 or something, the opening to the game, where an airship was assaulted by Midgardsormr. I don't really know the details myself other than that. Since which time their borders have remained closed to all outsiders. They have rejected every one of their former allies' calls to reopen dialogue, turning a deaf ear to their neighbors' pleas, even when the calamity loomed large. And on the fields of Carteneau, where brave men and women laid down their lives in defense of the realm, their banners were conspicuously absent. I have tried to convince Ishgard to rejoin the Alliance at every opportunity. I have explained, over and over again, that unless Eorzea stands united, we cannot hope to preserve our freedom. One by one, our nations will fall, as once fell Alamigo. And what of mine efforts yielded? Why not? Surely this can be considered a step in the right direction. I should hope so. Rather than the lowly messengers we have been fobbed off with in the past, this time we shall meet with a man of genuine influence. Of course, I am not so naive as to think that they come to us out of the goodness of their hearts. We have something they desire, though I have yet to find out what. But such is the nature of diplomacy. They will bring their agenda to the negotiating table, and so will I, along with a handful of incontrovertible truths. The Empire will soon be at our doorstep once more. Indeed, you may be assured that I will expound upon this point and others. Let us depart for Camp Dragonhead, Komori. Our old friend Lord Horsefront is expecting us. Since our quest to recover the Enterprise, I understand you have further ingratiated yourself with the man. Excellent work. His fondness may prove useful to our cause. He has been glazing us up recently. Am I using that term correctly? Glazing us up? I'm not up to date on all of the lingo. I know it's synonymous with rizzing and gassing, I think. Infilia, would you know? Though I know but little of Sir Aymeric, I have faith that Alphinaud's efforts are about to bear fruit. Actually, in that cutscene too, they did a good job of telling you about Ishgard, even though there would have been a lot to glean from side stuff and I guess in the background of the base game. To know that they're not participating with the other 3 city-states, but actually going out and saying it in a cutscene that the player would presumably not skip or avoid, does a good job of setting up why these guys are kind of separate from the rest of the other 3 city-states in the vicinity. Why you have dealings with them, but not really enter their city, and why it remains closed off. Once more setting the scene for your upcoming adventure into the city in the next expansion. Which at this point is pretty much, I guess, would have been known to the player. I'm sure trailers for the Ishgard expansion would have been talked about even during 2.3 or maybe even earlier. Anyway, Horsefront. Don't sit on his lap. Ah, Komoy, ever a welcome sight. Our hearths have been stoked to blazing in preparation for your arrival. It would not do for such a distinguished personage to catch cold whilst enjoying our hospitality. The gesture is much appreciated. I fear I shall ever struggle in cold climes. Ah, good Master Alfinode, in honor as always. Likewise, Lord Horshavant, forgive us yet another imposition. I fear we have relied overmuch on your aid, since you so generously assisted us in locating the Enterprise. Nonsense. Any debts incurred have long since been repaid. Besides, who can say what the future may bring? House Fort Tomps may even seek the aid of your newly formed Crystal Braves. In any case, I am simply delighted that the Holy See is at least willing to grant you an audience. No doubt your discoveries at Snowcloak help to justify the decision. This recent resurgence in heretical activity is of grave concern to us all. But to the matter at hand, Sir Aymeric arrived in Camp Dragonhead earlier, and I am told he is eager to meet with you at your first convenience. You are doubtless weary from your journey, and desirous to rest a while by the warmth of our hearths. But if you are willing to forego such comforts, pray inform the knight stationed outside the intercessory. He will grant you entrance and send word to the other attendees. As inviting as your hearth sounds, I think it best we proceed to the intercessory forthwith. Says you, Alfinode. What about Komoy? Maybe she's cold. Maybe she wants to warm up by the hearth. I see no reason to keep Sir Aymeric waiting, do you? Let us proceed to the intercessory. You will find the entrance to the intercessory outside. It's just around the corner to the right. Speak with the guard stationed there when you are ready to begin the meeting. Well, I say no. Komoy wants to rest by the hearth. Because I also want to, at the end of this episode, kind of mess around with those controls I was mentioning. Let's see. Don't think I can do it here. No, that's the dead zone stuff. And trigger dead zones. There's also the option of changing the way the triggers press down. Flicking a switch on the back of the controller makes it so that it only goes down like a third of the way, or even a quarter of the way, and instantly presses. So this is about the same pressing on these sticks, or on these triggers. But as you can see, the left side only goes down a third of the way or so, while the right side goes down all the way, even though they've moved the same physical distance. And there are 3 settings for that, but I just keep it on the basic setting so that they go all the way. Probably useful if you want to just tap the stick and get the full press. Not the stick. Tap the trigger and get the full press. Have it act more as a button, like R1 or L1, rather than a trigger. But there are games that use those haptic sticks or whatever. Anyway, what I'm here for isn't in this menu. Where is that? Well, I guess I'll have to mess around with it in between episodes or something, unless... maybe it's here. Yes, it would be here, wouldn't it? Yeah, the feedback. So, turn off the pop-ups. During games, yeah. That's it. And then keep the indicator and the vibration. So now, I can hold this and swap without the thing coming up. And without holding, I can just tap it too. So I swapped it just there, but no notification came up. I can also change this thing, can't I? Doesn't show up here. Where is it? The menu. Right now it displays everything, but I think I'd prefer if it only showed the profiles, or actually even just the selected one. Yeah, because I'll know where my things are assigned to. You can't change triangle, that's always going to be the default. And right now I only have a setting for Final Fantasy, but if I add more, I'm sure I can remember 4 settings. Don't need them all listed. And even if I don't remember them, I can just toggle through them quickly. The other options here, of course, are for changing audio by holding the function button and pressing the D-pad stuff, but I have other things, usually Discord, to connect to, so this probably won't matter to me. So now I can just swap like that. Or not hold down the button and swap like that without anything coming up. Good. Komoy, I apologize. I spent far too long talking about button mappings this episode. You warm up by the fire and take a nice long break.